I can't move my body. I can't move my legs or anything because the pain is just incredible. There's no cure for sickle cell.
That was Prodigy keeping it real about his battle with sickle cell. Eazy-E got taken out by complications from HIV and AIDS, and Bushwick Bill fought pancreatic cancer till his last breath. These are rap legends who had incurable diseases they couldn't beat, starting with Eazy-E. It as a simple cough in early '95 would lead to one of hip-hop's most devastating losses. Eric Lynn Wright, known as Eazy-E, had built NWA and Ruthless Records into a West Coast empire, but his wild lifestyle was about to catch up with him in the realest way. That persistent cough he kept brushing off as bronchitis, or just the effects of too many late nights in the studio, quickly turned into serious breathing problems that had him rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in LA on February 24, 1995. Docs delivered news that shook the whole hip-hop world. Eazy had full-blown AIDS. This wasn't no early HIV diagnosis that could be managed. The virus had been wrecking his immune system for years on the low, likely caught through unprotected sex. At just 30 years old, his body was already giving out, with pneumocystis pneumonia filling his lungs and his immune system completely shot. His wife, Tamika Woods Wright, whom he wifed up just 12 days before the diagnosis in a hospital bed ceremony, stayed solid by his side through everything. She later opened up about the heartbreaking moment when they got the results back.
We got the test results back, and the test results came back positive. He is HIV positive. I said, okay, and took me a minute, and he asked, are you okay? And I just remember, just sitting, crying.
Treatment back in '95 was straight brutal and barely did nothing. Docs put him on AZT, the first approved HIV drug, but it only gave slight relief while causing terrible side effects like nausea and anemia. His condition swung wildly between brief, clear moments where he'd crack jokes with fam and complete delirium from fevers hitting 105. Kidney failure had him on dialysis, and his weight dropped from 160 to under 100 in just weeks. From his hospital bed, Eazy did something real powerful. He reached out to former NWA cats like Ice Cube and Dre, squashing old beef and making peace. On March 16, 1995, he dropped a public statement urging folks to take AIDS seriously and get tested. 10 days later, on March 26th, surrounded by fam, Eazy died from AIDS complications. He was only 30. His death forced hip-hop to finally face HIV and AIDS head-on, breaking down stigma and pushing for more testing in black communities nationwide. Eazy's AIDS diagnosis came sudden and late, giving him only weeks to fight back. But this next legend battled his incurable disease from the day he was born, living with constant pain for over 4 decades. Pain was Prodigy's constant enemy from day one. Albert Johnson, one half of the legendary Queensbridge duo Mobb Deep, lived with sickle cell anemia from birth, a disease that would shape everything about his life in bars. Diagnosed at just 6 months old in '74, he didn't have no mild version some folks carry without symptoms. P had the full homozygous SS form, where red blood cells twist into rigid crescent shapes under any kind of stress. Those sickled cells would clog his blood vessels, starving his organs of oxygen and triggering crises of unbearable pain. His first crisis hit when he was only 2, and from there, childhood became an endless cycle of hospital stays, missed school days, and blood tests that left his fingertips covered in calluses. Growing up in the QB projects made everything harder. Cold winds triggered leg ulcers that wouldn't heal. Tour buses with stale air sparked breathing problems that left him gasping after shows. The disease stunted his growth to 5'6", and his hemoglobin levels stayed at about half what they should be. By his teenage years, exhaustion was just his baseline. He needed iron infusions and supplements just to get through basic daily activities. But the worst part was the pain itself, something he kept it 100 about in interviews.
Excruciating pain. Like, it's to the point where I can't even move. They have to pick me up or put me in a wheelchair and carry me to the hospital. Like, I can't move my body. I can't move my legs or anything because the pain is just incredible. There's no cure for sickle cell.
Treatment evolved over the years but never got easy. As a shorty, he relied on powerful painkillers like Demerol when crises hit. As an adult in the 90s, he started taking hydroxyurea daily, which helped cut crisis frequency by about 50% but required constant monitoring. He also took penicillin to prevent infections, which take out more sickle cell patients than anything else. In year 8, his wife Alana donated one of her kidneys after years of damage. The transplant gave him extra years but meant taking drugs that weakened weakened his immune system. After a show in Vegas on June 18, 2017, P checked into a hospital for routine anemia treatment, but a sickle-triggered infection turned into sepsis. His compromised immune system couldn't fight off the pneumonia. 3 days later, on June 20th, 2017, at just 42 years old, Prodigy passed away, finally free from the pain that haunted him his whole life. Prodigy's sickle cell anemia was a single genetic disease that tortured him physically, but this next legend faced a double assault of two autoimmune conditions attacking his body at once. Jay Dilla. Beds ain't supposed to be recording studios, but for Jay Dilla, they became exactly that. James DeWitt Yancey was a Detroit production legend whose soul-drenched beats revolutionized hip-hop in the 90s and 2000s. His work made drums feel loose and human while chopping samples into pure emotion. But in early 2002, after a grueling European tour, exhaustion and joint pain led to a diagnosis that would change everything. 28 years old, Dilla learned he had two life-threatening conditions: thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura, called TTP, and lupus. TTP is a rare disorder where the body destroys its own platelets, forming deadly clots. Lupus attacks healthy tissues throughout the body, causing inflammation and organ damage. Together, they were destroying him from the inside. He went from chaining 18-hour studio sessions to needing dialysis 3 times a week just to stay alive. His hands swelled up so bad he couldn't work the pad. His weight dropped from 160 to 120. Treatment became a grinding routine. Plasma exchanges swapped out his blood regularly. Immunosuppressants bloated him. Steroids triggered creative bursts but came with brutal side effects. By 2003, he moved to Cali for better medical care at UCLA Medical Center, but complications kept stacking. Kidney damage from lupus put him on a transplant list he'd never reach. One cat got emotional describing how Dilla spent his final months creating music even as death closed.
No, you could definitely.
But like, he was like dying and shit, and then his mom was like obviously crying. He was in the hospital. He was making this whole album in the hospital, and he made that song to tell her, "Don't cry when I pass away." You know what I mean? Like, that shit just fucked me up, bro. Like,
wow.
Yeah, crazy.
Despite everything, Dilla refused to stop creating. From his hospital bed at Cedars-Sinai in late 2005, hooked up to IVs and barely able to move, he recorded his masterpiece, Donuts. His mom's wheeled in a portable sampler, and he programmed 31 short tracks, too weak to stand, but determined to leave his mark. The album dropped February 7th, 2006, as his final statement. 3 days later, on February 10th, complications from TTP and lupus caused circulatory failure. Dilla died at just 32, but his legacy lives on through Donuts and annual Dilla Day celebrations. Dilla's TTP and lupus destroyed his organs and forced him onto dialysis, but this next legend's incurable disease required him to become his own doctor, managing insulin and blood sugar every single day just to stay alive. Phife Dawg. Being nicknamed the 5-foot assassin came from Phife Dawg's height and his massive presence on the mic, but another nickname would define his health struggle. Malik Isaac Taylor, one half of A. Tribe Called Quest earned the moniker Funky Diabetic after living with type 1 diabetes from age 19. That diagnosis in 1990 came right as Tribe was blowing up, turning what should have been celebration into a daily battle with blood sugar and insulin. Type 1 diabetes meant his pancreas stopped producing insulin due to autoimmune destruction. Without insulin, blood sugar spikes dangerously high, and without constant treatment, it can be fatal. For Phife, early symptoms were scary. A 20-pound weight loss he thought was tour exhaustion turned out to be his body wasting away. Hypoglycemic blackouts would hit mid-verse, causing shakes and confusion. His vision would blur. Constant thirst left him guzzling water. Neuropathy made his toes tingle, warning of foot ulcers that threatened diabetics with amputation. Managing it became a full-time job on top of being an MC. Early on, that meant 4 insulin shots daily, constant finger pricks to check blood sugar, and turning every meal into math as he counted carbs. By the 2000s, technology helped with continuous glucose monitors that beeped warnings, but complications kept mounting. After 18 years of elevated blood sugar wrecking his kidneys, he needed a transplant in 2008. His wife Alana donated a kidney, giving him a second chance, but the transplant meant taking immunosuppressant drugs for life, leaving him open to infections. Years later, Phife kept it real about how diabetes had completely changed his life.
They creep up on you like diabetes is one of those illnesses, and it finally came and kicked my butt. It affected my kidneys, so I had to go through hell and back because of diabetes. And I'm gonna be a diabetic for the rest of my life.
The disease derailed tours constantly. He had to step back from some tribe activities to focus on staying alive. But Fife refused to hide his condition. He openly spit bars about being diabetic and worked with diabetes foundations to help others. In March 2016, after a European tour with blood sugar all over the place, collapsed in Cali. Renal failure and a perforated intestine, both from years of diabetes and immunosuppression, overwhelmed him. On March 22, 2016, surrounded